Welcome to the Music Journal Podcast, where we talk about the hottest things happening in music right now, and also how you can apply it if you're an aspiring producer or musician yourself. I'm your host, Wes Yee. I'm a producer, artist, and educator, and I'm stoked to be chatting with you. Let's make history. All right, welcome to another episode of the Music Journal Podcast. So, seeing as how, as I'm recording this, it is December 2nd, recently changed the new month. It's got me kind of feeling a little nostalgic because the new year is coming up. We're in the middle of our holiday season. There's a few things I wanted to talk about. I kind of wanted to just take some time to reflect on 2017, 2018 as a whole, just that whole time period, and talk about some things that, happened, and also, I guess, measures to take for the future. So it's funny because what actually inspired me to kind of make this episode, I have some interviews kind of locked away that I'm going to be releasing soon. But the reason why I specifically wanted to make this solo episode today is because I recently saw an interview of Meek Mill. So some of you guys may know that he recently dropped an album. I haven't heard it yet. I'm probably going to listen to it right after I finish recording this. But in this interview, he's talking about how he's been, arrested and gone to prison multiple times. He was in prison and he met people in there who were literally locked up because they couldn't afford to pay, $100 bail. Literally just because they couldn't pay $100, they couldn't afford to pay it. It landed them in prison, and then it's fucked up because that's us, the taxpayers, paying it. It's a fucked up system that works against people who don't have, I guess, the means or the background to not land them in a situation like that. And it's one of those things where if you don't really take the time to kind of uncover what's going on and watch interviews like that, like if somebody who wasn't Meek Mill in an interview just told me, Meek Mill just ended up in prison again because he pulled a gun out on a SWAT team that were coming to invade his property on an investigation, which is allegedly what happened, I'd probably just take it at face value without really thinking anything of it. But then you listen to Meek Mill talk about it, and he's talking about how he doesn't even say that it didn't happen. He says, do you really believe that me, being Meek Mill, as an African-American man, would take a gun and point it at officers who are coming into his house with guns already pointed at him? It doesn't really make a lot of sense when you think about it that way. Yet, this is what we're being told, and this is what we just kind of believe and take at face value. And it's one of those things where I would encourage you to kind of think about things after you hear them. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up too, because 2017, 2018, it was all 2018 actually, but overall it was definitely a good year for me. There were a lot of highs and lows, but I made a Facebook status at one point, and the Facebook status was fuck parentheses, not all, close parentheses, but a solid amount of cops. So I said that wrong. Fuck parentheses, not all, but a solid amount of close parentheses cops. And there's an incident that happened to me that I reference a lot in this show, or I've referenced it a couple times. Like I know I mentioned it in my episode with Tyreek Tell, the guy who went viral for his America rap. And I haven't really told the story in detail, so I'm just going to tell you now, and you'll see how all of this kind of ties in together. But at a point this year, I was driving my car, and I found myself stopped at a stop sign, just completely obeying the law. And a police officer was coming in from my right side, turning left onto my street. So I was waiting for him to finish his turn, and then I was going to turn right. But the cop took his eyes off the road, and he turns into my lane, and I'm sitting there, and I see this cop car. I drive a tiny coupe, by the way, and this guy's in this big-ass Ford with the grills on the front, like the bumpers that's protecting his car. And he's coming at me kind of fast, And I remember it kind of happened in slow motion. I'm kind of thinking like, all right, this guy's getting kind of close to me. And then just, bah! fucking smashes into the front of my car, does like $4,000 worth of damage, and just totally like basically got away with it. Like I got financially fucked from the situation. The city didn't really take responsibility. I had to get a lawyer, and even the lawyer told me to just take the L pretty much. So I mean, the cop got fired, and that was the city's way of saying like, hey, like, sorry that happened, fire the cop. But they didn't take the financial responsibility that they were supposed to take in that instance. And it was one of those things where I go to the body shop to get my car fixed, and I'm telling the guys what happened, and they say they see it all the time, like ambulances, police officers, whatever, fucking crash into people, and the people who get crashed into just get fucked. The city doesn't pay them out, doesn't do anything, and as just a person, just a civilian, you really have no power in the situation. Like you go to the press, like I went to the newspapers, and the newspapers don't print the story because they get funded by the city, so it would be not in their best interest to print a story that kind of puts the city in a negative light. And these things happen a lot more frequently than you would think it happens, and nobody really talks about it until now, me on the podcast. So when I heard Meek Mill's story, on a much higher scale and a much more severe consequence, even someone like me who has had something happen involving the police that was not my fault at all, and seeing them not take responsibility, I wouldn't have even thought that, or I wouldn't have even thought to think that what I hear on the news and the media was inaccurate about the whole Meek Mill situation. So I think it's one of those things where we really need to kind of be aware of what's happening, and the reason why I kind of bring this up now again is because just when I thought it was all over, I got through the financial barrier and the burden of all that, got my car fixed. When I got my car back from the shop, because I failed inspection before it happened, so I had an R, but that gives you 60 days to get it fixed and then get it re-inspected. So my car's in the shop for 4 months. Those 60 days expire, and I still have the big R sticker on my car. So I get my car back, and it's still not eligible to pass for inspection. So I get pulled over by another cop who saw the R, and he comes out, says I can't be driving my car because it failed inspection. But this was literally one day after I got it back from it being in the shop for 4 months. So that's 4 months I didn't even have my car, had to pay for Ubers, and I had to borrow my parents' car, which was pretty lame because I haven't had to do that before. So it was just a whole bunch of shit. And this cop pulls me over, and the city didn't help me at all, by the way, with any of these Ubers or transportation or anything. But that's beside the point. Cop pulls me over. He gives me a warning. He says, I totally understand. Sorry that happened to you. Just get it fixed as soon as possible. And he lets me off with a warning. Drives away. I didn't think about it at all. It's months later. This was back in June. Now it's December. And in late November, I got pulled over again because a couple bulbs of my taillight were out. And the cop comes over to me and he says, hey, have you ever been pulled over before? And I hadn't, or so I thought, because, that incident was so fast. I didn't even think about it. It was just, hey, like, just got my car back from the shop. Cop smashed into me. It wasn't my fault. I got fucked. Cop goes, you're good. It's all good. Take a warning. No big deal. It was so fast I didn't even really register it as me having been pulled over before. So I tell the cop, no, I've never been pulled over before. Cop says, don't lie to me. I can see it in my system. You got pulled over in June. And he goes back to his car, and I'm thinking about it. And then I remember, oh yeah, that's when that happened. And I got a warning. So when he comes back to my car, I explain, look, man, like, yeah, that happened, but it was because of this and this and this. And he gave me a warning. Cop says, yeah, I see the warning in the record, but it looks like the cop made a mistake. He says in the record that he pulled you over, gave you a warning, but then pulled you over again immediately after and gave you a citation. So I never got that citation. The cop told me that I just got a warning, but he put in the system that he gave me a citation which I never received. So my license got suspended because of this citation that I never even got, where I shouldn't have been pulled over in the first place, because the whole thing was because a cop smashed into my car while I was stopped at a stop sign because he took his eyes off the road. So it was this whole big chain of events where I thought this whole thing was fucking just done with. And then months later, I find out there's still bullshit that I'm dealing with. And the cop says, you got to go to the RMV, just explain the situation. I'm sure they're going to take it off. So I go to the RMV, and I wait for like 4 hours to finally talk to a hearings officer. Get to the hearings officer. Hearings officer didn't give a fuck about any of it. She said, look, you didn't pay the citation. I don't care that you didn't get the citation. Doesn't make eye contact with me either. Just eyes glued to the fucking computer. Like doesn't acknowledge any part of the story. The fact that I already had all this other bullshit because of it. And she says, you have to pay the $110 citation and a $100 reinstatement fee. And that's it, or you don't get your license back. So a few days ago, I had to pay $210 in addition to all of that stuff happening. And it all strings together and ties back to this whole thing where this cop smashed into my car, and it's fucking crazy. So when I heard that Meek Mill thing, Meek's story is obviously a lot worse of a situation than what mine was. So end of the day, you got to kind of count your blessings, you know what I mean? Which is also another reason why I wanted to make this episode, to kind of make that point, because I think it's something that's easy to forget to do, and to kind of take things for granted. So especially because this new year is coming, it's important to kind of think about what you have, and if there's something that you wanted to accomplish. I never really believed in New Year's resolutions, to be honest. They say like 85-95% of New Year's resolutions just get given up on by February. So I guess another reason why I'm making this podcast is because, if there's something that you want to do, fuck waiting till January 1st to do it. I made a list actually in my notebook that I carry around everywhere with me of things that I'm going to try to do before the new year. So before January 1st, there's a 6-figure deal that I'm working on. I thought I was close the other day. We jumped on the call. It ended up not going through that day, but there's other moving parts and other pieces. So, if you're listening out there, and a few, I guess these are the takeaways that I wanted you to take from today's episode. But whatever you want to do, fucking send it. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not possible or that you can't do it. Get it done now. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Why waste time? Why wait until whenever, January 1st, whenever you wanted to do it? Life is short, and things can happen that are out of your control, like this cop thing that I totally didn't see coming. And the other takeaway, I guess, is just be aware of this political climate that we're in, and don't be afraid to say what you think and what you feel, and don't just take things at face value. You know what I mean? Like, think about things that you hear about and think critically about it and come to your own conclusion. Because I'm not in any way trying to say that, the media is this fucking evil thing that's lying to you all the time. But, if you think about the Meek situation, it really doesn't make sense. Why would Meek Mill pull out a gun and point it at officers who already had guns pointed at him? And then that's what he got arrested and charged with. And because he grew up in a system that was such a normal thing to just allow that to happen, it's just something that he accepted and didn't even know how to really do anything about it. And now that he has a name and a platform, he can talk about it openly, which I think is an amazing thing. And oh yeah, there was the other thing about the Facebook status that I wanted to say. I made that Facebook status that said, fuck not all, but a solid amount of cops. There were still people jumping on the comments. This is my personal Facebook, by the way. But I try to keep things like that, like my political opinions and agendas, private. But I think it's definitely something I want to start talking more openly about, like on this podcast and in my music and other things like that. But there were still people jumping on the comments and just saying, like, you know what, if shit hits the fan and shit goes down, don't call him then. But I chose my words very carefully with that status, and I think to just say a statement like that without looking at all these other things and events that are happening that are clear as day, and just to disregard them, is a little bit naive. So definitely not trying to say all cops are evil or anything like that, or that it's totally geared in one direction. But it's important to look at things the way they are, and then kind of form your own opinions about them. So those are pretty much the takeaways that I wanted to put in this episode. That's pretty much the episode that I wanted to make. So tomorrow I get my wisdom teeth pulled. Never had a surgery before. So I'm probably going to be releasing one of these interviews that I have on the back burner next week. And I guess I'll see you then, or I'll talk to you then. Peace. Hey, we'll be back in the episode in just 2 seconds, but before that, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. So for all you aspiring producers and artists out there, I can't even begin to tell you how important having a mentor was to me. I would literally not be where I am today if it wasn't for people like Mike Moss, who is a 3-time Grammy Award nominee. He got me my first credit. And Prince Charles Alexander, who's recorded Biggie and Alicia Keys. I wouldn't have been able to continue to grow and progress in my craft if it wasn't for them. So if you've been listening to the show and you heard episode 19 with Kato on the track, you know he's produced for B.O.B., Joyner Lucas, Hobson. He got token viral with his contest before anybody even knew who he was, and he totally blew up. The reason I'm telling you this is because he just opened up a mentorship program that will transition your music from being a side hustle to a career. If you want to learn the secrets from people at the top of the industry, go to bit.ly/TMJ mentor and you can try it for free. That's bit.ly/TMJ mentor. All right, and we're back. So this is the part of the episode where I take your music and I feature it and I talk a little bit about it. I handpick my favorite songs that you guys send me. And if you didn't get picked this week, do not be discouraged. Keep sending me your music. Wes at homestudiohits.com. That's HOMESTUDIOHITS.com. My name is Wes, WES. Send me an email. Send me your song submission. I love hearing them. And, keep shooting your shot and you'll get picked. That's kind of been the theme of the episode a little bit, and kind of like more motivational content, kind of get after it before the new year and everything. And actually, it's kind of funny because this guy that I chose for today's episode's feature, he's got like a little monologue at the end of the song that I'm featuring where he talks about just like all the bullshit that's happened to him as well. That's not why I picked it. It was just kind of a weird coincidence. But he talks about being suicidal, and now he's back making music. And I liked this song, man. This guy VBK, he has an EP called Prodigy, and the song that I'm featuring is called Prodigy. It's got elements of boom bap in it. It's pretty sick. The guy's got a lot of potential, I think, with his lyricism and his vocals. And I just want to let you know, I see you grinding. I see you putting out music, and I'm glad I can kind of give you a platform to showcase some of it. So here's a little snippet of his song, Prodigy.
Prodigy. Yeah, I'm chasing success. All the progress that I made's got me feeling so blessed. There's no quitting right now, cause this life is a test. And all y'all people out there listening, y'all know who's the best. It's the Prodigy. Recently not living so socially, locked up in my room and I'm training myself musically, so to speak. I only take what is mine, and the title Rap God looking oh so heavenly. Yeah, the sky's the limit, I'll surpass it and shine. Don't compare me with others, I'm the first of my kind. All these other rappers here forget the meaning of grind. I'm already at the top, all y'all still in line.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Music Journal. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of it. If you want to know more about me and what I do, I just put out a personal EP on Spotify. You can go to bit.ly/Wes Yee Spotify. And if you want to know more about music production, I teach an online course about it too. Just shoot an email to wes@homestudiohits.com and I'll send you an application. Just for filling out the application, I'll send you a free sample pack of sounds I use to make the instrumental you're listening to and more. All these links will be available in the show notes so you can check them out there. And while you're there, if you feel inclined to rate this show 5 stars, that would really help me out. Other than that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks again. Peace.